Hey, gorgeous souls. I'm Jessica, and I'm about to tell you the most insane mother-in-law revenge story that literally destroyed an entire family's reputation. For 3 years, my husband's mother, Patricia, made my life absolute hell, sabotaging my marriage, spreading lies about me, and even trying to break us up so her precious son could marry his ex-girlfriend. She thought she was so clever, manipulating everyone around her while playing the innocent victim. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. My revenge didn't just expose her toxic behavior, it revealed that she'd been embezzling money from her church, cheating on her husband for 5 years, and lying to the entire family about her finances. By the time I was finished with Patricia, she'd lost her marriage, her reputation, her job, her social standing, and the respect of everyone who'd ever known her. This story has literally everything: toxic mother-in-law manipulation, family, secrets, financial fraud, adultery, and the kind of revenge that turned a family matriarch into a social pariah. Y'all ready for this tea? Because this is how I single-handedly destroyed the woman who tried to destroy my marriage. All right, beautiful souls. Let me paint you a picture of what my life looked like when I married into what I thought was this amazing, close-knit family 3 years ago. I'm 29 years old, and I work as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital in Denver, Colorado. I met my husband Michael at a friend's barbecue 4 years ago, and honestly, it was love at first sight. Michael was this gorgeous, successful architect who was funny, kind, and seemed to have his life completely together. Michael came from what appeared to be the perfect American family. His father, Robert, was a retired police captain, and his mother, Patricia, was this pillar of the community. She volunteered at their church, organized charity events, and everyone in their neighborhood thought she was absolutely wonderful. Michael also has a younger sister, Amanda, who was 25 when I met the family, and she seemed sweet and welcoming. The whole family appeared to be incredibly close, with weekly Sunday dinners, family vacations, and constant group text messages about everything from birthday plans to holiday arrangements. Seemed thrilled to meet me. She hugged me, asked about my work, complimented my dress, and told Michael how lucky he was to find such a lovely girl. For the first few months of our relationship, Patricia was incredibly welcoming. She'd invite me to family events, ask about my family, and even gave me her famous chocolate chip cookie recipe. I thought I'd hit the jackpot with such an accepting future mother-in-law. Michael proposed to me after 2 years of dating, and initially, Patricia seemed genuinely excited about planning our wedding. She offered to help with everything from choosing a venue to picking flowers, and she kept talking about how she couldn't wait to have a daughter-in-law. But about 2 months into our engagement, ways that I initially dismissed as wedding stress, she'd make little comments about my wedding dress choice. "Are you sure that style is flattering for your figure, dear?" Or, "I just want Michael to be proud of how his bride looks," she started. Questioning our venue selection, the Riverside Country Club is lovely, but don't you think it's a bit ambitious for your budget? Or, "I just hope your family won't feel out of place somewhere so fancy." Patricia also began making suggestions about our guest list, specifically mentioning Michael's ex-girlfriend Sarah multiple times. You know, Sarah Robinson and Michael dated for 3 years. It might be awkward if she's not invited. She's still very close to our family. When I'd expressed discomfort about inviting Michael's ex to our wedding, Patricia would act like I was being unreasonable. "Oh, sweetie, you're not the jealous type, are you? Sarah is practically family. She's been to every major family event for years." This is where I need to explain the Sarah situation, because it becomes crucial to understanding Patricia's motivations. Sarah Robinson was Michael's college girlfriend, and they dated for 3 years before breaking up about 6 months before Michael and I met. According to Michael, their breakup was mutual and amicable. They'd grown in different directions and decided they were better as friends. But according to Patricia, Sarah was the one who got away, and Michael had made a terrible mistake. Letting her go, Patricia would constantly bring up Sarah in conversations. "Sarah got promoted to marketing director at her company. Isn't that wonderful?" Or, "Sarah looked absolutely beautiful at the church fundraiser last week." She asked about Michael. What made this especially uncomfortable was that Sarah was still very involved with Michael's family. She attended family birthday parties, came to church events with them, and even joined them for their annual family vacation to Lake Tahoe the summer before Michael and I got engaged. Michael claimed he didn't see anything wrong with Sarah's continued involvement with his family. "She's been part of our lives for years," he'd say. "Just because we broke up doesn't mean she can't still be close to my parents," but I could see what was happening. Patricia was keeping Sarah around as a backup plan, hoping Michael would eventually come to his senses and get back together with her. As our wedding planning progressed, Patricia's subtle manipulation became more obvious and more frequent. She'd schedule family events on the same days as our wedding planning appointments, then act hurt when Michael would choose our plans over family time. "I just thought family was important to you, Michael, but I understand that Jessica's needs come first now." Patricia started involving Sarah in wedding-related family discussions. What do you think about the centerpieces, Sarah? She'd also make comments designed to plant seeds of doubt about our relationship. Marriage is such a big commitment. Michael, are you absolutely certain you're ready for this? Or, I just want to make sure you're marrying for the right reasons, not just because everyone expects it. Most manipulatively, Patricia began sharing concerns about me with other family members. Then reporting back to Michael about these conversations, Amanda mentioned that Jessica seemed stressed at dinner last week. Is everything okay between you two? Looking back, I can see that Patricia was systematically trying to create doubt and tension in our relationship while positioning herself as the concerned, loving mother who just wanted what was best for her son. Beautiful, but Patricia's behavior was notably cold and distant. During the ceremony, Patricia cried, but not happy tears. She looked genuinely upset, like she was attending a funeral rather than her son's wedding. At the reception, Patricia's speech was passive-aggressive and backhanded. I'm so happy that Michael has found someone who makes him ... content. I just hope that Jessica understands what a special man she's married and will always put his needs first. Patricia also made sure that Sarah was seated at the family table, right next to Michael's grandmother, where she could be prominently featured in all the family photos. Several guests commented to me later that they thought Patricia's behavior was strange and that she didn't seem genuinely happy about the wedding. But the most telling moment came during our first dance. Instead of smiling and enjoying the moment, Patricia stood with her arms crossed, whispering to other family members and looking like she was analyzing everything critically. I should have recognized these as major red flags, but I was so caught up in the joy of marrying Michael that I dismissed Patricia's behavior as typical mother-in-law adjustment issues. Y'all, what I experienced over the first 2 years of my marriage wasn't just typical mother-in-law boundary issues. Patricia launched a systematic campaign to sabotage my marriage, undermine my relationship with Michael, and drive us apart, so her son could get back together with Sarah. The problem started almost immediately after we returned from our honeymoon in Italy. Patricia began calling Michael multiple times every day, often during moments when she knew we'd be together. If we were having dinner, she'd call with some urgent family matter. If we were watching a movie, she'd call with questions that could easily wait until the next day. Follow up with guilt-inducing text messages. I just wanted to hear your voice, son. I hope I'm not bothering you and Jessica, or I know you're busy with your new life, but your old mom misses you. Patricia also started dropping by our apartment unannounced, always at inconvenient times. She'd show up during our dinner dates, on Saturday mornings when we were sleeping in, or when we were clearly trying to have private time together. I was just in the neighborhood, Patricia would say, even though she lived 45 minutes away from us. I brought you some leftovers from Sunday dinner. I know how busy you newlyweds are when I'd suggest that Patricia call before visiting. She'd act hurt and defensive. I'm sorry, Jessica. I didn't realize I needed an appointment to see my own son. I was just trying to be helpful. But Patricia's most insidious tactic was her constant comparison campaign between me and Sarah. Every conversation somehow included mentions of Sarah's accomplishments, her appearance, or her relationship with the family. Sarah stopped by the house yesterday, Patricia would tell Michael. She looked absolutely radiant. Her new job at the marketing firm is going so well, and she's lost 15 pounds. She really has her life together. Remember when you and Sarah went to that wine festival in Napa? Patricia would say, during family dinners. You two had such wonderful adventures together. Sarah was just telling me how much she misses those trips. Patricia would also invite Sarah to family events without telling me ahead of time, then act like her presence was perfectly normal. I'd show up to a family birthday party or barbecue to find Sarah already there, sitting in what I considered my spot at the family table, laughing with Michael's relatives like she belonged there more than I did. When I'd express discomfort about Sarah's constant presence, Patricia would make me feel like I was being unreasonable. Sarah is family, Jessica. Surely you're not so insecure that you can't handle being around Michael's old friend. Also began systematically undermining my role as Michael's wife in front of family and friends. She'd refer to me as Michael's friend instead of his wife. When introducing me to people, this is Jessica, Michael's friend. When I'd correct her, she'd act like it was an innocent mistake. Patricia would plan family events and forget to invite me, then act surprised when Michael would ask why I wasn't included. Oh my goodness. I must have forgotten to text Jessica. I'm so sorry, dear. Next time I'll make sure to include you. She'd also make decisions about Michael's life without consulting me, then present them as family decisions. We've decided that Michael should host Christmas dinner this year at your apartment. The family is so excited to see your place. When I'd point out that she hadn't asked me, Tricia would say, I assumed you'd want to be part of family traditions. Most frustratingly, Patricia would give Michael gifts that were clearly meant to exclude me or remind him of his life before marriage. She'd give him tickets to events for two people, then suggest he take his father or Amanda instead of me. I know Jessica isn't really into baseball, so maybe you and your dad could go to the game together like old times. Patricia would also give Michael expensive gifts that she knew we couldn't afford to reciprocate, then make comments about our financial situation. I hope you two are managing your money wisely. Marriage can be so expensive, and I worry about you having enough savings. About 18 months into our marriage, the constant stress from Patricia's interference was starting to affect my relationship with Michael. I was frustrated and exhausted from dealing with her manipulation, and Michael was caught in the middle, trying to keep both his mother and his wife happy. We decided to go to marriage counseling to work through the issues, which I thought was a positive step. But somehow, Patricia found out about our counseling sessions and used this information to create even more problems. She started telling family members that Michael and I were having serious problems and that our marriage was in trouble. Patricia would call Michael after our counseling sessions to check on him. "How are you holding up, son? I know this must be so difficult for you, or I'm here if you need to talk about anything." Sometimes it helps to have your mother's perspective. She also began making comments to other family members about how concerned she was about our marriage. "I just don't think Jessica understands what marriage really means. Expect Michael to choose her over his family all the time." Most manipulatively, Patricia started suggesting that our marriage problems proved that Michael had married the wrong person. "I've never seen you this stressed before. Michael, you were so much happier when you were with Sarah. Maybe that should tell you something." The situation reached a breaking point about 6 months ago when Patricia orchestrated what I now realize was a deliberate setup designed to destroy my marriage once and for all. Patricia invited Michael and me to a special family dinner to celebrate her and Robert's 30th wedding anniversary. But when we arrived at the restaurant, Sarah was already there, sitting at the table with the rest of the family. "Surprise," Patricia announced. "I invited Sarah because she's been such an important part of our family for so many years. I thought it would be wonderful to have everyone together for this special occasion." I was immediately uncomfortable, but I didn't want to make a scene at Patricia's anniversary dinner. Throughout the meal, Patricia made sure that Sarah was the center of attention, asking about her work, her new apartment, and her dating life. "Sarah, you look absolutely beautiful tonight," Patricia gushed. "Doesn't she look wonderful? Michael, you two always looked so perfect together." Patricia also spent the evening sharing memories of Michael and Sarah's relationship. "Remember when you and Sarah went to my sister's wedding in Chicago? You two were such a gorgeous couple. Said you looked like you belonged together." By the end of the dinner, I was furious and hurt, and Michael was clearly uncomfortable with his mother's behavior. But Patricia wasn't done. As we were leaving the restaurant, she made sure to hug Sarah extra tightly and say loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Sarah, you'll always be my daughter. I love you like family." Then she turned to me with a cold smile and said, "Jessica, thank you for coming tonight. I hope you understand how important family traditions are to us that night." Michael and I had our biggest fight yet, and I realized that something had to change or our marriage wouldn't survive Patricia's interference. Beautiful souls, that anniversary dinner was my wake-up call. I realized that Patricia wasn't just a difficult mother-in-law. She was actively trying to destroy my marriage, and she was getting more bold and vicious with her attacks. So I decided to stop being the victim and start fighting back. The morning after that disastrous dinner, I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of continuing to suffer in silence or hoping that Patricia would eventually accept me, I was going to find out everything I could about her and use that information to protect my marriage. I started by paying closer attention to inconsistencies in Patricia's stories and behavior. For example, Patricia always claimed to be struggling financially, constantly making comments about money being tight and how expensive everything was. But she was always buying expensive gifts, eating at upscale restaurants, and wearing designer clothes. Patricia also claimed to be deeply religious and devoted to her church, spending hours every week volunteering and organizing events. But I'd noticed that she was often gossiping about other church members, making cruel comments about people's appearances, and judging others harshly. Most importantly, I started documenting every interaction with Patricia, saving text messages, recording phone calls when legal, and keeping detailed notes about her manipulative behavior. My first real breakthrough came when I started investigating Patricia's financial situation more closely. Patricia was the treasurer of her church's building fund committee, responsible for managing donations and organizing fundraising events. She was always talking about how successful their fundraising efforts were, and how much money they'd raised for the new church expansion project. But when I attended a church service with Michael's family, I overheard some congregation members expressing concern about the slow progress on the building project, despite all the successful fundraisers. One elderly church member mentioned to another, "I don't understand why the construction hasn't started yet. We've been raising money for 3 years. And Patricia always says we're doing so well." This made me curious. What I discovered was shocking. The church's annual reports showed significantly less money in their building fund than Patricia had been claiming in her fundraising presentations. There was a discrepancy of almost $75,000 between what Patricia claimed they'd raised and what the official church records showed. While I was investigating Patricia's church finances, I stumbled onto something even more damaging. Patricia was always talking about her Tuesday evening committee meetings at church and her Thursday afternoon volunteer work at the church food pantry. But when I checked the church's public calendar and volunteer schedules, there were no committee meetings on Tuesday evenings and the food pantry was only open on Saturday mornings. So I decided to follow Patricia one Tuesday evening to see where she was really going. Patricia drove to a hotel about 20 minutes from her house and met a man in the parking lot, not Robert, and not anyone I recognized from church. They went into the hotel together and Patricia didn't come out until almost 3 hours later. I was able to get a photo of the man and through some social media investigation, I discovered that his name was David Chen and he was married, with 2 teenage children. Further investigation revealed that David was also a member of Patricia's church and served on the building fund committee with her. Patricia had been having an affair with David for almost 5 years, using fake church meetings and volunteer work as cover for their hotel rendezvous. Once I started digging deeper into Patricia's life, I discovered that her affair and financial fraud were just the tip of the iceberg. Patricia had been lying to her family about almost everything. She claimed to have a part-time job at a boutique clothing store, but when I called the store, they'd never heard of her. Patricia said she'd been helping an elderly neighbor with grocery shopping and housework. But when I spoke to the neighbor, she said Patricia had only visited her once in the past 2 years. Most significantly, Patricia had been taking credit for charitable work that other people were doing. She'd tell the family about her successful fundraising events, but the actual organizers were other church members who did all the work, while Patricia took all the credit. Patricia had built her reputation as a pillar of the community on lies, manipulation, and stolen credit for other people's good works. Over the course of 3 months, I compiled a comprehensive dossier of Patricia's lies, fraud, and manipulation. I had bank records showing discrepancies in church fund management, photos and documentation of her affair with David Chen, evidence that she'd been lying about her job and volunteer work, recordings of her manipulative conversations about my marriage, screenshots of text messages where she encouraged family members to exclude me, documentation of her systematic campaign to break up my marriage. I also discovered that Patricia had been telling different lies to different family members, counting on the fact that they wouldn't compare notes. She'd told Robert that she was working extra hours at the boutique to help with family finances, while telling Amanda that she was volunteering more at church to give back to the community. Patricia had told Michael that I was jealous and controlling and trying to keep him away from his family, while telling me that Michael was having doubts about our marriage and missed his relationship with Sarah. She'd been playing both sides, manipulating everyone to create maximum drama and conflict. Armed with all this evidence, I developed a plan to expose Patricia's lies and manipulation in a way that would completely destroy her credibility and end her interference in my marriage. I wasn't just going to reveal her affair or her financial fraud. I was going to expose everything at once in front of the people whose opinions mattered most to her. I decided to use the family's annual Thanksgiving dinner as the setting for my revelation, since all the extended family members would be present, including Robert's siblings, Patricia's parents, and several family friends. But first, I needed to make sure that Michael would be on my side when the truth came out. I sat down with my husband and showed him all the evidence I'd gathered about his mother's manipulation of our marriage. Michael was initially defensive, but when he saw the documented proof of Patricia's lies and systematic sabotage, he was shocked and angry. "I can't believe my own mother has been doing this to us," Michael said after reviewing all the evidence. "She's been lying to me about you and lying to you about me, just to try to break us up." Michael agreed to support me when I exposed Patricia's behavior, but he asked me to handle the situation carefully since it would also devastate his father and sister. I promised Michael that I would focus on Patricia's actions and let the consequences fall where they may, but that our marriage had to come first from now on. Gorgeous souls. Thanksgiving dinner at the Thompson family house was supposed to be this warm, traditional gathering where Patricia could play the perfect hostess and loving matriarch. Instead, it became the day when her entire web of lies collapsed. In front of 23 family members and friends, Patricia had been planning this Thanksgiving dinner for weeks, inviting not just immediate family but also Robert's 2 brothers and their wives, Patricia's elderly parents, Amanda's boyfriend, and several close family friends. She'd also made sure to invite Sarah, of course, claiming that Sarah didn't have anywhere else to go for Thanksgiving, and that it would be cruel to leave her alone on the holiday. Patricia had spent days preparing the meal and decorating the house, clearly intending for this to be a showcase of her role as the perfect wife, mother, and community pillar. When Michael and I arrived, Patricia greeted everyone with her usual fake warmth, making sure to hug Sarah extra tightly and seat her right next to Michael at the dinner table. "Isn't this wonderful?" Patricia announced to the gathered family. "I'm so grateful to have all my loved ones together. This is what family really means." But I had brought my own contribution to dinner, a folder full of evidence that was about to destroy Patricia's perfect image forever. During the meal, Patricia dominated the conversation as usual, talking about her church work, her volunteer activities, and how blessed she felt to have such a wonderful family. "Robert and I have been so fortunate," Patricia said, reaching over to squeeze her husband's hand. 32 years of marriage, and we're still as devoted to each other as the day we met. Patricia also made sure to include plenty of subtle digs at my marriage. Some couples seem to struggle with balancing marriage and family relationships, but I think it's so important to remember that family comes first. She spent considerable time praising Sarah and reminiscing about her relationship with Michael. "Sarah, you look absolutely radiant. Doesn't she look wonderful?" "Everyone. Sarah has always been like a daughter to me." Patricia was clearly performing for the audience, establishing herself as the moral center of the family and positioning Sarah as the beloved almost daughter-in-law. But then it was time for my performance. When Patricia paused to serve dessert, I stood up and addressed the table. "Before we finish this lovely meal, I have something important to share with everyone. Patricia, you've spent so much time talking about family values and honesty tonight that I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to discuss some family matters that have come to my attention." Patricia looked immediately nervous, but she tried to maintain her composure. "Jessica, dear, what are you talking about?" "Well, Patricia, I've been doing some research into your various activities, and I've discovered some interesting discrepancies between what you've been telling everyone and what you've actually been doing." The room got very quiet. Everyone could sense that something significant was about to happen. "Asterisk, for example," I continued, "you've been telling the family about your part-time job at Henderson's boutique. But when I called the store, they said they've never employed anyone named Patricia Thompson." Patricia's face went white. There must be some misunderstanding, ... Single quotes, actually. There are quite a few misunderstandings that need to be cleared up tonight. I pulled out my first set of documents and placed them on the table. "Patricia, you've been serving as treasurer of the church building fund for 3 years, and you've been giving regular reports about how successful your fundraising efforts have been. According to your presentations to the congregation, you've raised over $200,000 for the new church expansion project. But according to the church's official financial records, there's only $125,000 in the building fund account. That means $75,000 is missing from the church's money that you've been managing." The room erupted in shocked gasps. Robert stared at his wife in disbelief. Patricia's elderly parents looked horrified. "Asterisk, those records must be wrong," Patricia stammered. "I've been very careful with the church's money. I would never... Single quotes, actually, Patricia. I have bank records showing multiple transfers from the church account to your personal account over the past 18 months. Would you like me to share those with everyone here?" Patricia realized she was trapped. Her carefully maintained image as a devout, honest church leader was crumbling in front of everyone she wanted to impress. But I wasn't finished. "Patricia, you've also been telling Robert and the family about your Tuesday evening committee meetings and Thursday afternoon volunteer work at the church. But the church doesn't have committee meetings on Tuesday evenings, and the food pantry is only open on Saturday mornings. So I was curious about where you've actually been going during those times." I pulled out the photos I'd taken of Patricia meeting David Chen at the hotel. "It turns out you've been having an affair with David Chen, a married man from your church, for almost 5 years. These photos show you meeting David at the Marriott Hotel on Route 36 every Tuesday evening and Thursday afternoon." The silence in the room was deafening. Robert looked like he'd been physically struck. Amanda started crying. Patricia's parents stared at their daughter in complete shock. "Patricia," Robert said quietly, "is this true?" Patricia tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. "Robert, I can explain. It's not what it looks like, actually. It's exactly what it looks like," I said. "I have hotel records, credit card statements, and text messages between you and David discussing your relationship." Then I moved to the evidence that was most important to me personally. But the most disgusting thing about Patricia's behavior has been her systematic campaign to destroy my marriage to Michael. I pulled out transcripts of Patricia's manipulative conversations and her text messages encouraging family members to exclude me. For 3 years, Patricia has been lying to Michael about me. Lying to me about Michael. and manipulating both of us to try to break up our marriage. She's been telling Michael that I'm controlling and jealous, while telling me that Michael has doubts about our relationship and misses his ex-girlfriend. Patricia has been orchestrating situations designed to create conflict between Michael and me, all because she wanted him to get back together with Sarah. I looked directly at Sarah, who had been sitting in shocked silence throughout my revelations. Sarah, did you know that Patricia has been telling you that Michael is unhappy in his marriage and might be interested in rekindling your relationship? Sarah shook her head, looking mortified. No, Patricia said that Michael and Jessica were having problems, but I would never try to break up a marriage. Patricia has been manipulating you too. Sarah, she's been using your friendship with the family to try to sabotage my marriage. By this point, Patricia's entire facade had collapsed completely. Robert stood up from the table, his face red with anger and humiliation. Patricia, how could you do this to our family? How could you lie to me for 5 years? Patricia's elderly father spoke up with disgust in his voice. Patricia Ann, your mother and I raised you better than this. We are ashamed of the woman you've become. Amanda was sobbing. Mom, how could you steal from the church? How could you cheat on Dad? How could you try to ruin Michael's marriage? Patricia finally broke down and admitted everything. I just wanted what was best for Michael. Sarah was perfect for him, and Jessica was taking him away from our family. So you decided to commit fraud and adultery to get your way? I asked. You destroyed your own marriage and reputation because you didn't approve of your son's wife. Michael stood up and put his arm around me. Mom, what you've done is unforgivable. You've lied to everyone, stolen money, cheated on Dad, and tried to destroy my marriage. You're not welcome in our lives until you get serious help. The Thanksgiving dinner ended with Patricia's complete social destruction. Robert filed for divorce the following Monday and moved in with his brother while he figured out his next steps. The church filed criminal charges against Patricia for embezzlement, and she was arrested 2 weeks later. David Chen's wife filed for divorce when she learned about the affair, and David lost his job when his company found out about his involvement in the church financial scandal. Patricia's parents cut off contact with her, saying they were too ashamed to associate with someone who would steal from a church and destroy her own family. Amanda initially tried to maintain a relationship with her mother, but Patricia's continued manipulation and refusal to take responsibility eventually drove Amanda away to. Sarah stopped attending family events and moved to another city, finally realizing that she'd been used as a pawn in Patricia's manipulative games. Within 6 months, Patricia had lost her marriage, her reputation, her relationship with her children, her parents' respect, and her standing in the community. She pled guilty to embezzlement charges and was sentenced to 18 months in prison plus restitution to the church. Today, 2 years after that Thanksgiving dinner, my marriage to Michael is stronger than ever. Michael and I went through counseling together to work through the damage that Patricia's manipulation had caused to our relationship. We've established clear boundaries with Michael's family and rebuilt our marriage on a foundation of complete honesty and communication. Robert has started dating again and seems much happier without Patricia's constant drama and manipulation. Amanda has thanked me for exposing the truth about her mother, saying that she finally understands why she always felt like something was wrong in their family. As for Patricia, she served her prison sentence and now lives alone in a small apartment across town. She occasionally sends letters asking for forgiveness, but none of her family members respond. I learned that some people will destroy everything they claim to love in order to get their way, and that sometimes the only way to stop a manipulator is to expose them completely. Patricia thought she could use lies, fraud, and manipulation to control her son's life and break up his marriage. Instead, her schemes destroyed her own life while making my marriage stronger than ever. That's how you handle a toxic mother-in-law, y'all. You document everything, gather evidence, and then expose their lies in front of everyone who matters to them. Sometimes the best revenge comes from simply telling the truth. And beautiful souls, if this story resonated with you, if you've dealt with toxic family members or manipulative people in your own life, I want you to know that you're not alone. There are so many of us who've had to fight for our relationships and our sanity against people who should have been supporting us. I share these stories because I believe that knowledge is power. And when we understand the tactics that manipulators use, we can better protect ourselves and the people we love. If you want to hear more stories like this, more tales of justice served, karma delivered, and toxic people getting exactly what they deserve, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. I post new revenge stories every week, and trust me, y'all are not ready for some of the wild stories I have coming up. Your support means everything to me, gorgeous souls. Every like, every comment, every share helps me reach more people who need to hear these stories. Because sometimes, knowing that someone else stood up to a bully and won is exactly the inspiration we need to find our own strength. So smash that subscribe button. Leave me a comment telling me about your own experiences with toxic family members. And let's build a community of people who refuse to be victims. Together, we're stronger than any manipulator who tries to bring us down. I'll see you beautiful souls in the next story. And remember, karma is real, justice is possible, and you have more power than you think.